Welcome back to another episode of Survival Worldwide on Reality Pop. I am super stoked today. I've got Riley, my co-host here, and we are going to be talking about Australian Survivor for the first time in a long time. So really excited about this. Riley, how excited are you about this season coming up?
Yeah, really excited to get back into it. Brains versus Brawn, a season theme that's been borrowed from the US. So really excited to see how that translates. This time around, obviously, Australians, we're all beautiful, so there's no need for a third beauty tribe. So yeah, really excited. Only a couple more sleeps away, and then we're back into Australian Survivor. I'm so stoked to have it back.
Riley, you stole my joke. I was going to come in here and say that, why did they not bring the beauty theme into the season? And I was like, oh, Australians must just be all very beautiful people in general. But you stole that right away from me. And one of the things I want to touch on just before we get into the cast for the season is the location of the season, because obviously we also cover Survivor South Africa. I gave us a little bit of an insight as to what we could expect from a season that is actually shot and produced in South Africa. When it comes to Australian Survivor, obviously this one looks like it's going to be inland. It's going to be quite dry. They're going to have to make some changes to how they play this game. What can we expect from a season in the Australian Outback?
Yeah, well, unlike season 2 of US Survivor, the Australian Outback, which was filmed just a couple hours away from Cairns, a coastal city, this is actually in the heart of the Outback. So, I mean, we're actually going to see red desert sands. I believe there's a lake as well, which will be great to see. So it really will be Outback Australia, which is nice to see compared to the previous season 2 of US Survivor, which really wasn't all that much of an Outback season. So really excited. I'm sure it'll be very hot in the day and obviously freezing cold at night. So it's definitely going to be brutal for the contestants.
Now, Riley, how prepared are you for this cast draft and assessment that we're doing here today?
Honestly, Chris, after our Survivor South Africa cast assessment, I'm a little bit skeptical about this one. Obviously, I've been absolutely slammed in that one early on. My number one pick there went home so early. So look, I've tried not to prepare too much for this one. I'm really just going to be winging it tonight and, see what happens. And hopefully by not overthinking it too much, I end up picking the winner.
Oh, Ethan Roper and Chris Dixon, first two people here in the chat today. Welcome to the stream. We're super excited to talk about Australian Survivor, and we're going to get right into it because there is 24 cast members to talk about. So how this is going to work is we're going to have a live spin of this wheel to see who's going to go first, and how the picks are going to work is whoever gets selected, they will get the first pick, and they can choose if they want to start the draft pick off with a male or a female, and there will then be a snake draft. So if Riley wins it and he chooses to go male, I will have the second pick male, and then thereafter I will have the first female pick, and Riley will have the second female pick, for instance. So Riley, here we go. Good luck. Fingers crossed. Riley won this last time that we did it, so I'm hoping that I get it this time. Nah, the wheel likes you, Riley.
It likes me too much. I think it's just a curse going first every time.
Yeah, all right. You've got that. So we're going to go straight into our draft picks here. Guys, you let me know if that's not big enough for you. I'll try and fit everything into the frame here. And Riley, you're going to have this first pick. Who do you want to go for as your number one pick? And will it be a male or a female?
I'm going to break tradition from what I did in Survivor South Africa. And for my first pick here, I'm going to go with Hayley. Hayley, obviously, on the Brains tribe. From New South Wales, my home state. Really excited to see her at work in this season. So from what it looks like, she's a professional pain researcher. So she certainly knows how to work in that field. She says she has healing hands. So I think she's going to be a very intelligent castaway. And to see her on this tribe, I'm really excited to see how she goes.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, Hayley was my second female pick. I know Chris Dixon is a massive fan of Hayley, and he was already in the chat there saying, go Team Hayley. I do think that she's going to do extremely well. A couple of the things that I like about her is that she's 31 years old, which means that she's got a little bit of life experience behind her going into this season, and especially with a cast that in general is a little bit on the older side. I know that having spoken to you off sort of camera about it, you've mentioned that in general, the Australian cast tend to have older casts in general. But I do like that about her. I do think that she's extremely smart. And for me, coming into the season, I do think that there's a couple of really big hitters when it comes to females, especially in that Brains tribe, where I feel like they're not going to be followers necessarily in the game. They're going to try and carve their own way out and form their own strategy to get to the end. And Hayley seems to be someone that is in that sort of I guess, line of thinking when it comes to playing her own game. And another really big thing about Hayley, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, she is a massive fan of the show. So I think that the fact that she's a fan, I think that there may be a few female people that are coming into the season that aren't the biggest fans. So overall, I do like this pick for you with Hayley. So I'm going to go over now and I'm going to select my first female pick for the season. And this is a person that coming into this one, I actually did want to select this person in first place. So I'm really happy that they're still on the board. And it is going to be, let me just give me 1 second here, Georgia, who I'm going to go for as number one, also from the Brains tribe. So Georgia is a forensic psychologist. She says that, she's going to play a very mentally calculated game. She may look like the girl from next door, but she's spent years to sort of get into the psychology behind some of Australia's biggest criminals. So I can very easily see Georgia and Hayley working together. And I also know Georgia is a big fan of the show, having done a little bit of homework here, and I can see them bonding on that specifically. And then from a psychological standpoint, one of my favorite reality TV players of all time was Dr. Will. And, for the people who didn't watch Big Brother US, he was a doctor as well. And he was someone that just played that game at a very psychological level. And if Georgia can bring any of that to the table, understanding how human behavior works, understanding what people will do in certain situations to lie or to try and get ahead in the game. If she can tap into that side of what these people are doing out there, she may be that leg above when it comes to it. And again, she's, I'm sorry to bring up the age for the ladies, but she's 35. I think it's a great age to come into this game with this cast. I think she is going to be well liked in her tribe as well. And I'm excited to see what Georgia is going to bring to the table. What do you think about Georgia?
One thing I found really fascinating about looking at her bio is she's delved deep into the mind of Australia's most devious criminals, according to her bio. So she obviously knows how to get into people's brains and understand what they're saying. So it'll be really interesting to see how she approaches the game. And with her and Hayley having similar jobs as well, I do think, and also being of a similar age, I think they're going to bond well here. And, they might create some sort of an alliance here, which could, dominate the Brains tribe early on.
100%. Now, I do want to apologize. I had Cara in that first spot instead of Georgia. The two blondes got me confused there for a second, but I have corrected it off screen. So I've got Georgia there in the first spot for my pick. Very happy to have had my first pick. You got my second pick. So we're off to a strong start here with two of the Brains tribe. Now, I've also got the ability to select the first guy, and I'm going to mix it up, and we're going to have our first Brawn come onto the table today, and it is going to be Simon, which I don't know if you even thought about putting Simon this high and where you personally had him ranked. But for me, Simon is someone that comes across as quite interesting. He says that he's a self-proclaimed golden child. He's someone that has always been able to do whatever he's put his mind to. But what I find really interesting is the fact that he's recently had a really big career change. So he used to work in the corporate world, but he's decided to go and work in the trades. So to me, someone that does that big of a life move, especially at the age of 31, when you're quite settled in what you're doing, I think that you need to know yourself very well. And in the game of Survivor, it's not the place to come in and learn about yourself. It's a place where you already need to know who you are as a person. You need to know how you fit into the social circles around you, where your strengths and your weaknesses are. And also, I think that he's going to be underestimated because he's done bodybuilding before. He looks physically like he's in shape. People might think he's a dumb jock. I don't think he is. I think also the other thing about him as well, Riley, massive fan of the show, has watched it for a very long time. On Instagram, I noticed that he put a post up to say that he used to work in the marketing space selling billboards in the corporate world, but now he's actually going to be on one of these shows where he used to sell the billboards. And as a fan to a fan, I want to show him some love and pick him here in the first spot.
Yeah, I really like the pick of Simon. He was someone that I actually had my eye on as one of my first male picks as well. I mean, he's obviously very built. I mean, it's no surprise that he's on the Brawn tribe. And you're right there. He really has two lives. Obviously, currently working as a chippy, and Australians, we all love our tradies, and a past life in the office as well. So yeah, really excited to see how he goes, and hopefully he can play a strong social game as well, and not just appear like a physical jock. I hope he doesn't come across as another Robbie or a Zach, from what we saw in Champions vs Contenders 1. And I really hope we do get to see a lot more depth from him. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how he goes.
Just want to acknowledge here, Channel Mud, welcome to the live stream. Where it's great to have you with us here today. And also just want to acknowledge here, Chris, yes, we did start off with 2 brains off the bat for the females, but I think that it might get interesting here with the guys, because I do think that the way that Australian seasons work, they kind of favor the Brawns in the beginning of the season. There's not always that many puzzle components to the challenges in Australian Survivor. It is really physical, and having a season in Australians' backyard, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how much they're going to up the ante when it comes to the physical challenges. So they're going to have to even it out somewhere. So I'm really excited to see who you're going to go with next year, Riley. Will it be a brain or will it be a brawn?
Well, I'm sticking with my head here, Chris, and I'm going with another brain, and it's going to be Baden Cook. Now, Baden is a name that I've actually only heard twice. One time from Champions vs Contenders 2, with obviously Baden Gilbert, who finished runner-up in that 2019 season with Pierre Miranda. And I hope that Baden on this season, Baden Cook, is going to have a good run. So really excited to see how he goes. And he has a mix of both brain and brawn. He used to be a former professional cyclist, used to race in the Tour de France, and apparently he won a green jersey there back in 2003. So, a very impressive accomplishment, and I'm sure that'll definitely translate across to great ability in the endurance challenges. So really excited to see how Baden goes. Also a former poker player, it seems, so he certainly knows his way around human psychology and how to read people. So I think looking at Baden, he's very strong as well. So I think he's going to be really the brain's strongest member early on, and someone they'll keep around throughout the pre-merge. And I think he's going to do really well long-term in this game, mixing that former professional athlete side and also his own smarts as well, and leading a business as well. I'm sure he'll have great leadership rules.
Yes, so for me, Baden is a very solid choice. I had him ranked at 4th for the men coming into the season, and I think he's going to do well because he does look like he's one of the more physically strong people when it comes to this season, specifically in the Brains tribe, because I do fear that there is a bit of a gap between the physicality of the men between the two tribes when we look at those two tribes. And let me just bring up here the full cast photo, I guess, for the season. When you look at these guys that are in the Brains tribe, in general, they don't look like the most physically dominant players in there. But Baden, to me, kind of stands out a little bit as someone that could be a bit of a pit bull there and can perform and provide that grunt. And I'm quite interested to find out why he is actually in the Brains tribe and not in the Brawn tribe, because he comes from an athletic background. So for me, that basically tells me that there is a bit more to him than what we potentially may think off the bat. And I think that Chris Dixon here in the chat makes a really good point that he could potentially be, he's mates with Matt Rogers. I thought he was going to say he's probably like Matt Rogers, because to me, I was thinking he could be a Matt Rogers type of character. That's how you want to be if you're an athlete coming into this game. If you can be like a Matt Rogers type of character, I think that you're doing pretty well coming into this season. So let me get the draft picks up again. And Riley, you've also got the next pick, which will be a female.
All right, so with my next pick, I am going to go with a big wave surfer. Again, much like the Badens, we've had two Badens, and now we've got a second big wave surfer, obviously following in the footsteps of the legendary Ross Clark-Jones. We have Flick, she's 28 from WA, ranked second in the world for big wave surfing, so she certainly knows how to hold her own in that essence. So yeah, really excited to see how she translates that across to the game of Survivor. She looks very physically tough, looks like she has very strong upper body strength, which is obviously going to come in need for all those physical challenges that we know Australian Survivor has. So she looks really physically strong, and I think she's going to be someone that dominates early on in the pre-merge stage, and hopefully she goes deep into the merge as well.
Now, Flick was someone for me coming into this draft pick. I did not know where to pick her. Like, I was really nervous about like where was I going to put her in my draft pick. And I'll be honest with you, she was a bit lower than what you had her. She was kind of middle of the road for me. In fact, I think I might have had her exactly at the sixth spot between the females. And the reason for that is she's got all the physical attributes to come into the season and absolutely dominate. She's a big wave server, which tells you that she's got that kind of can-do attitude and the mental toughness that it takes to do that type of sport, because it's not an easy sport to do. You're putting your life at risk at all times, like Ross showed us in some of those clips of some of the waves that he served. So I've got tremendous respect for someone that's a world champion coming into this game, and specifically being someone that was 16 when they became a pro. It takes a certain maturity to be able to do that. So I'm very interested to see what Flick brings to the season. My only problem and the only like potential negative around Flick is I don't know if she's a fan. I don't know if she knows what she's getting herself into. Is she going to be just another Sporty Alliance type of player? That is yet to remain to be seen, I guess, at this point. So that would be the only downfall. But she is of a good age, because in general the females of that tribe are a bit younger and they all seem to be very sporty. There's a lot of them that do like bodybuilding, and obviously as a Brawn tribe, that's what's going to happen. So maybe she'll fit in pretty well in the social dynamics. I just don't know if she's strategically going to run it. And I do want to say that for me and Riley making these massive assumptions right here, we've seen 0 videos of them. We've not seen them talk. So we're obviously going to be making a lot of assumptions going into the season. So I do believe that it's back to me to pick my next female pick here. And I'm going to go for someone in the Brawn tribe as well. I'm actually going to go for, where's she on this list here? For Chelsea on this next spot. And I like Chelsea because we see a little bit of Chelsea here in the early season promos where she's talking about that the Brawns are going to bring down a whole world of pain on the Brains tribe. And Chelsea's voice, I believe, is the one that says that in the promo. I could be wrong, but that's what I personally believe, is that it's her that's saying that. And she kind of reminds me of potentially, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but she kind of reminds me of like a younger Daisy potentially coming into this season. So someone that I don't know how game savvy they're potentially going to be, but she's going to be a fighter. She's going to be doing good in the challenges. The thing with her is that she's a professional MMA fighter. And as someone that has done karate and has got a third degree black belt in karate, I know the type of dedication it takes to get to a certain point in your profession. And to get there in a sport like mixed martial arts where you're fighting, it is an extremely strategic sport. People think that when you're sitting on the outside, it's just a bunch of random people throwing fists. No, that's not what it is. You've got to set traps for people to come in so that you can capture them and put them in your locks or things like that. In karate, it's all about playing chess. It's like human chess with fists and legs, basically. So there's strategy that goes into being able to fight. And if she can apply some of that, and if she can apply some of that discipline in the game, I think she could do well. And also what I like about her, again, is I think that she will do really well with the younger women in the tribe. They all have a lot in common. So I can see her potentially being someone that can go quite far in this game. Riley, what is your thoughts on Chelsea?
I'm absolutely bummed you took her, because she was going to be my next female pick. So I'm a little bit annoyed there. But I wouldn't compare her to Daisy. I think Jenna Austin is probably the more appropriate comparison in my mind. Jenna Austin obviously being a NFL athlete at the time, American football player. But yeah, Chelsea, the thing I worry for her, though, is much like we've seen with B from Survivor David vs. Goliath, being a professional athlete and actually currently competing as well. If she gets injured, or it gets any twinge at all, she might have to withdraw from the game. So I do worry for her on that side of the equation. But I do see her as someone that's obviously coming on as youngest contestant on this season. She's going to gel well with all those younger females on the cast. Looks really physically strong, and yeah, I hope she comes across as a very strategically savvy player. So I've really got high hopes for Chelsea in this season.
Yes, and let's not forget that in Survivor South Africa, the youngest player is doing extremely well. And one of my concerns was, and I'm not making that mistake again, is that the youngest player might struggle to integrate with some of the older players. So I don't think it's that big of an issue if you've got quite a mature head on you. And I think that she might be someone that's got a very mature head on her coming into the season. Now, I believe that I also get the next guy pick here. And I am very happy to say that my second guy pick is still on the board. And I don't think a lot of people would have thought I'm going to go for this guy. I think that a lot of people would look at him and say, ooh, he might be another David Gannat. And I'm hoping that he's not a David Gannat season 1, but a David Gannat season 2. I am going to go for Benny for this next spot. And the reason I'm going to go for Benny from the Brawn tribe is because I personally can relate to his story quite a bit. He's worked in call center sales. He's done door-to-door sales. That's literally my background. You know, I did door-to-door sales as a first job, worked my way into call centers where I was one of 200 people sitting in a contact center, phoning people up, doing cold sales, to later on managing the whole contact center. So it's literally my story that he's gone through. But one of the things that for me really sticks out with him is I don't think he's that car salesman type of guy. He might have that come across in the game, but I mean, this guy went through a whole life change where he decided that the high life material things are not for him any longer, and he was going to change his life up, move to LA. So that's where he's now living, not in New South Wales like they're putting it on the promotional material. And I've sort of noticed on Instagram and social that he does a lot of work with underprivileged communities and gives back to kids and things like that in need, and some of those helpless people that are in helpless situations, he gives back to them. So I feel like he's got a lot more emotional intelligence than what people might off the bat think by just looking at his photo, because he does look like that sales guy, potentially David Gannat, cocky attitude type of guy, but I'm sure that there's a lot of depth to him. So I think that he's going to be a bit of a leader in that Brawn tribe, being one of the older guys there. And one thing I do know about salespeople is that if they're very effective, they can build very strong bonds and relationships that can carry them very deep in the game. And we all know that the social game is the most important currency when it comes to the game of Survivor. What do you think of Benny, and where would you have had him? Have I gone really high on him, or did you also have him around this time?
Yeah, I think this is a perfect place to put Benny, and yeah, a little bit bummed there that you took him away. He does have obviously a background, working in sales, so that's obviously going to be a big benefit to him in the social aspect of the game, and obviously having all that life experience as well is obviously going to give him a lot of adversity to sort of battle through there. And what Chris just said there, I do see him potentially as being like a benchy sort of character. Especially if he can bring in a lot of strategy and really revolutionize the way the game is played, and come across as this seasoned villain. I can see him not so much being a Brian Heidick sort of villain, but someone that's certainly going to be a dark presence on this season. Someone like David, I suppose, who will really muddy the waters. So yeah, really excited to see Benny, and he does look very strong. Obviously, being on the Brawn tribe, so yeah, I'm sure he'll be great in challenges as well.
I tell you what, I am so excited that I got my number 1 and number 2 pick for the guys, because I didn't think that I was going to get both of them. So very happy about that. But I do think that this season is going to be great, because there is a couple of really good dark horses still in there. And I'm very interested to see who you're going to go for here in your next pick when it comes to the guys. Who do we have coming up for you? And we started off strong with the Brains tribe, but there's been quite a few Brawns sort of sneaking into our picks at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick with the Brawn tribe. I am a rugby league man through and through, so it pains me to put an AFL player on my team here, but I'm going with Gavin Wanganeen, obviously Indigenous Australian legend. He won a flag with Port Adelaide Power, one of the AFL teams here in Australia. He won a Brownlow medal as well, so he's certainly been at the top of his sport. I do see Gavin as being the Matt Rogers sort of character on this season. I think he's really going to obviously being a leader in his sporting career and leading the Power to a flag there. He has that experience leading people. I'm sure he'll have a great social bond with everyone. Obviously going to be strong in challenges as well. Although he is one of the older males on this Brawn tribe, I really look forward to seeing how Gavin goes. Yeah, he's a legend of the AFL from what I understand. So I've heard very high raps of him, and I know a lot of fans in South Australia especially will be excited to see how he goes. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing Gavin Wanganeen, and I hope that he can, deliver the goods for my tribe and bring home the prize potentially.
Now, as a South African that moved to New Zealand, I didn't grow up with AFL. In fact, rugby league's not even a big thing in South Africa either. So I really didn't know who he was. A lot of his material is around what he's done previously within the AFL game. I can see he's a legend of the game, has received a lot of rewards. It's pretty cool that he's the first Indigenous Australian who won the Brownlow medal or the media. I'm not sure if that was just a typo there by the media team, but for him to be able to win that, I think is pretty impressive and something that people that know him from Australia and would know the prestige that comes with that, you just want to be close to people that have achieved success in life, and you want to be their friend, you want to get to know them. So I think that that's going to buy him a little bit of time here early on in the season when he gets into the season. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the game. I'm just fearful, and I had him, to be honest, at I think 8th on the guys, or close to 9th. The reason that I'm a little bit scary for where he's going to go in the game, was scared for where he's going to go in the game, is because of what I saw with Simon and Champions versus Contenders 2, and with I forgot the other guy's name, the older guy who was in the Sporting Alliance. I just don't want him to be like one of those two people that don't actually play the game, and it's all about loyalty and mateship, and that's what I'm worried about for him.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think ET was the other man you might have been thinking there in the Sport Alliance. Obviously, rugby league legend ET, an absolute legend of the game. I believe it's my pick next. Is it, Chris, to pick female?
Yes, it is your pick next. Go ahead.
Alrighty, so I'm going to be going with someone I think is going to be one of the stronger members on the Brains tribe, on the female side at least, and that is Laura. Laura, 36 years old, an environmental advocate from New South Wales. She said in her bio there that she's going to prove that it's not all about beauty, and she does have brains behind her. So I'm really excited to see how she goes on this season. It looks like she's going to be one of the stronger members on that female side of the Brains tribe. So really excited to see how she goes. She looks really tough. So and also has a background in the environmentalism. So I do wonder how she'll sort of work with the environment there in Cloncurry.
I tell you what, this one hurt. This one was right to the heart, because she was next in line for me. If you didn't take her here, I would have taken her in the next spot. And I do agree. I think she could do extremely well. She physically looks like one of the strongest members in the Brains tribe. She is someone that has got a massive following on Instagram as a curve model, 82,000. And I'm not the greatest when it comes to social media. I mean, this year I've kind of learned how to use Instagram a little bit, learned how to use Twitter. So I don't always know the trends of what's happening out there. But to me, if she's a curve model, I don't know what's normal, to be honest. She to me looks in really good shape. So, and I think that she's someone that potentially at that smarts level, having done the various degrees in biology and marine science and things like that, she'll naturally gravitate to some of those other smarter players. Some of them yet to be picked in this draft pick. I think that she potentially could be forming great alliances with. I won't go into that now because I don't want to give any strategy away as to where else I think certain players might fit into these dynamics. But I think that she'll be doing okay for herself in this game. And again, the Brains tribe, the females are all around the same age bracket as well. And I like that age bracket because in general, that's the age bracket of females in Australian Survivor that do a lot better in the game in any case, because they've got a pretty mature head on their shoulders. Strategy and socially, they're pretty savvy. They could go quite far in the game. I think she could be a little bit of an underdog, and I have seen her on a lot of the promo material as one of the faces on there. So I do think we're seeing her for a reason, and she's there to stay for a while, at least in the game. All right, so I do believe that we're coming back to me now for my next female pick here, and I'm trying to think if I should make a last-minute turn from what I was going to do based on that pick that you've just picked. I'm a little bit afraid that I might go the wrong direction here and choose the wrong person, but I'm going to stick to my gut. I'm going to go with how I had them in order, and the person underneath Laura for me in this next spot would have been Danny. So I am going to go with Danny for my next pick. Danny is a corrections officer in one of Sydney's maximum security prisons. She's also an ex-army truck driver. She's used to high-pressure situations, and she's used to the dry and hard conditions since she's from Jillaroo and the WA outback, which Chris Dixon, who's in the chat, might be able to tell us a little bit about WA since he's from there, or from the state. It's not to say you would know exactly where that area is, but she to me looks like someone that potentially could fit in with that hardworking attitude of the Brawn tribe. Someone that potentially will go out there and deal well with different personalities, because if you're in a prison guard situation, you're having to deal with various people that are at the extremes, so I think she could diffuse situations pretty quickly. I think she'll have a certain way of communicating, and I don't know why, Riley, but we had a couple of years ago in Survivor Cagayan, we had a male winner win this game, who she kind of reminds me of. Could she be the female version of a Tony Vlachos? Guy comes in as a cop. He's been working undercover for so many years, dealt in narcotics with different people, the criminal minds and all those things. Here you've got Danny coming into Australian Survivor, Brains versus Brawn. She's been in maximum security prison situations. She knows how to deal and sort of, because to be able to deal with them, you've got to kind of get to their mindset and lower your mindset to their mindset when you're communicating with them. Will that type of undercover almost type of work in the prisons and things, will that translate over to a game like Australian Survivor? I'm really excited to see. And also, I'm excited to see representation in this season. I could be wrong, and if I am, I do apologize. But looking at her Instagram, I think that she might be part of the LGBTQ community. So obviously always happy to have people in the cast that's going to represent. So happy to see her play in the game and happy to see how she goes. What do you think of Danny coming into this season?
I can see an alliance forming if there's a tribe swap and Georgia and Danny end up in the same tribe. I can really see those two gelling there, obviously with their connection there. Danny being a prison security officer and Georgia having that background in criminal forensics, and obviously working as a Jillaroo as well, which for those who aren't Australians is essentially just a cattle rancher or sort of a cowgirl. Jillaroo being the female version of Jackaroo. Here in Australia, working in the outback is going to be something really interesting to see. Obviously not quite in her environment, but at least she'd be used to those arid conditions. So to see how she adjusts in the outback will be really interesting. And it does look like she has a very broad range of different jobs she's worked in the past. So I think she'll have a lot of different ways to connect to all those other tribe members on the Brawn tribe. Obviously, again, being on the Brawn tribe, she looks like she's going to dominate in challenges. She almost reminds me of a sort of Marisha character from Survivor South Africa this season there. She looks really, really physically strong. And hopefully, unlike Marisha, she can play a really good social game and add a little bit of strategy as well, like a Tony Vlachos, and use those skills from working in that sort of world with all these prisoners in this high maximum security prison, and apply that to the game of Survivor and really analyze people's brains and get in there and make them nervous.
Now, Riley, I am extremely excited. Almost, the opposite emotion from losing Laura here in the previous picks when we had our previous picks. I'm very excited that you haven't picked this person yet, and I think it's a steal at this point to get this person here at third for the men. And I actually had him ranked at third for the men as well. And it is going to be Mr. Bankstown himself. George is going to be my next pick. That is going to go in. And the reason that I'm stealing George in this specific spot is because I love what this guy's bringing to the TV show. In the beginning, he's saying, I'm happy to let the audience decide if I'm going to be the hero or the villain. And I love that, because that means he's not going to put morality out there in front of him for his decisions in the game. He's going to play the hand the way it's dealt to him in front of him. And he's someone that is used to working in government, and looking at Australian politics from the outside. We don't get very political on this show, guys, so don't worry. But looking at it from the outside as an outsider, Australian politics is very volatile. Not that I'm saying other countries don't have volatile politics, but, people get cut left, right, and center. It is pretty much like playing Survivor before you even go out there and play the game. I guess the only difference is you do get to eat well. And according to his Instagram, he is a big KFC chicken lover. So, sadly, there's going to be no KFC out there for him in the island when he's going and playing.
Oh, you never know.
But you never know. They might sponsor them this year. It might not be Hungry Jack's. It might be KFC sponsoring them if George gets his way. But I'm very excited to see what he brings to the game. Like, he's a high achiever, a cunning expert negotiator, and a master manipulator. I think this guy is going to be an undercover great player. The problem is just here with him, Riley, is do they pick up on the fact that he's this cunning from the start? And does he tell them that he works for government? Because I don't know what it gets looked like in the Australian public, but if you're someone that's from the government in general, sometimes you feel like you can't trust them. It's almost worse than being a used car salesman, right? So that's where I'm worried for him. But I do think that he's someone that can figure this game out. I don't know if he's a fan, but I've got high hopes for George coming into this game.
See,
what do you think?
I was scared there when you took when you were saying he was really high on your list, because I was concerned you were going to take my next male pick. But George, I'm a little bit skeptical to touch him, only because being a politician in Australia, I'm not sure how popular he's going to be out there, and I think he might have to avoid suggesting that he is a politician there. It might be a little bit dodgy. George, if you're watching this, when I saw you at first, he sort of reminded me of a certain Australian.
George is going to watch it. George is definitely going to watch it. He put a like on the Twitter when I put it out there, so he's going to call you out if you come for him.
If you're listening, George, I was actually, when I first saw him, he reminded me of one of his Labor Party mates. I'm sure, maybe his mates, maybe he's not. He reminded me of Sam Dastyari, which immediately made me a little bit skeptical to potentially look at you there, George. So, George, apologise. I'm sorry for comparing you to Sam Dastyari there. Although he is from Bankstown, obviously an area of Western Sydney where my rugby league team is from. So, that's positive on his side, I suppose. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how he plays the game, how he approaches it, and taking that spin doctor side and dealing with all the chaos in camp. I'm really excited to see how he approaches that. Again, Chris, I'm not sure I would have taken him this high at all.
You're going to eat your words, Riley.
Early, but you know what? Watching this season of Survivor South Africa, though, I have been eating my words. So you never know. He might be another Renier and end up being, going very far in the game. So, I'm happy to be shocked. But, yeah, I wish him the best of luck. Just not my cup of tea, it seems.
Listen, if George tells everybody that he's from government, I'm telling you now, there's going to be some trouble. But if he can play that down, hopefully he gets enough time in the game to build some good relationships. I think he can go quite far. I think he's going to be a mover and a shaker. So I'm really excited to see George play the game. And I'm very excited to see who I missed out on, since apparently there's a bigger and better person still on the cast than George himself, which I don't believe. No offense to the rest of the team. But who are you going for, Riley, on this next pick?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you don't think my next pick is better than yours, you're going to be eating your words at the end of the season. Andrew, the wildlife warrior, I'm really excited to see how he plays. Obviously, he knows his way around dangerous animals, which might come in handy here in Cloncurry. I'm sure there's a lot of snakes lying around there. And in his description, he says he's eccentric, passionate, and curious. So he seems like he's going to be a really big character, which I'm excited to see. So for Andrew, someone I think will be a great social player. He's going to be really exciting to see on this season. Really looking forward to seeing how he goes from the Northern Territory as well. So I would imagine he does have that sort of experience being in that area of the country. Cloncurry, obviously a little bit further south than the Northern Territory, but I'm sure he has experience working in the red sands of the outback as well. So yeah, really excited for Andrew to see how he goes. A survival expert. And I think he's going to be someone that's going to go very far in this game.
Yeah, I'm got it. You would have been my next person. So it's funny how of all the guys, we've got 5 taken off the board here, I think, already, and it's all 5 of the people that I thought, or the men that I had ranked pretty highly coming into this. So he was the next guy for me on here. I do have one fear for Andrew, though. I've checked a little bit on his social media. I've gone onto his YouTube page. He's got over 500,000 followers, by the way, subscribers on YouTube, which is really impressive for a small channel like us who have worked really hard just to get to the 800 or so subscribers that we have. I can only imagine he's done his work, and I've checked some of his content out. He is a bit of a wild man. So one of the episodes that I checked was with him going to catch one of Australia's most poisonous snakes while roller skating in the desert in the outback, capturing it. So he looks like a little bit of a wild man, but I can tell you that he's someone that's going to be very knowledgeable about the outback. So he's got home ground advantage. playing this game over in Australia. And I think that he's someone that potentially, if he other people like that eccentric personality that he's got, which can be a little bit crazy because you think about it. I don't want to spoil anything here, but one of the great players of Survivor South Africa said this season that he can afford unpredictability in his life outside of the game, not in Survivor. How are people going to respond to that type of character in the game? But then in saying that, if he's good at it and he's still good at building relationships, he could be another Luke Toki type of character on this season. So I'm very excited to see what he's going to do coming into the season. I think regardless of what happens, he's going to be a very big character in the show at the very minimal.
Yeah, that's right. I'm really excited to see how he goes. I do think he's going to be, a massive character. Obviously, Americans would liken him to perhaps a Steve Irwin, a well-known wildlife I suppose, presenter here in Australia. So to see someone like that on the show, I think he's really going to connect actually with a lot of the foreign audience as well. I think he's going to be a really popular character. So I think if he can bring some of that eccentric personality to the show, he's going to be really, really exciting. And I hope that not only does he come across as, being knowledgeable about the outback and having this crazy personality, I hope he also brings some strategy as well. I do think you compared Benny to Tony Vlachos. I think it's going to be Andrew that's going to be our Tony Vlachos on this season, and a little bit unpredictable. I'm really excited to see how he goes. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing Andrew, and he's someone I'm really high on, and I'm glad I got him this early in the draft and you haven't taken him at this point.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good pick, and I do believe you're the next person, or keep me on track here. Is it back to me on this one?
It should be me next, from what I understand. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, guys. But my next pick, I'm going to go with Cara Aitchison, a real estate agent from New South Wales. It seems she lives just around the corner from me. She's known as the Duchess of Double Bay, apparently, which is an area of the eastern suburbs in Sydney. So yeah, really excited to see how she goes. She started out working at the age of 20, starting her own real estate agency. So she obviously has a lot of experience there, working hard for herself. And obviously selling properties in that area of Sydney. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, Chris. It's going to be a very hard thing to do. A very popular area. So I'm sure she's dealing with people every day in that sense. So yeah, really excited to see how she goes. A secret power apparently she's got. It seems she's a superhero. She's an empath. So it's going to be interesting to see how she can communicate with others and see if she can understand their different emotions. So I think she's going to be someone that connects with them on a social level really, really strongly. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
So we've got Channel Mud here in the comments that just gave us a follow on Twitter. We do appreciate this. And if you're listening to the audio, go check our description out. We're also on Anchor FM, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and on YouTube. We normally put in our description all of our social handles. So things like Twitter and Instagram and all the social stuff. We're on there. Connect with us, especially on our Discord server, which I'll make sure to update after this video because apparently that link is expired. So I'll update a new one and put it in here after the recording. We've got a very good group of people there that engage and talk about Survivor US, Survivor Australia, and also Survivor South Africa, because we cover all three of the shows on this channel. So go and check that out. Now, Channel Mud has asked, what is an empath? So an empath is someone that can feel someone else's emotions. So it's basically like they feel if Riley is sitting there and he's in pain, I feel his emotions and I feel like I'm in pain. And myself and Riley, we're never in sync ever on this podcast. But I will say one thing, Riley. Yeah, we were not in sync, but I tell you what, Cara was my next pick. So it feels like we've been going toe for toe here for most of this draft. And either I've snagged one before you did, or you snagged one before I did on this draft. So we've been very in sync this time. It's very unlike us, So maybe, Chris said earlier that we should get a UFC fight going and do a bit of a boxing match between me and you, Riley. But I don't think that's needed. I feel like we should do a tag team and some wrestling match against maybe a Dirty Harry and a Matty or something like that. If the interest is there down the line, if we ever get big enough to do it. Now, for this next pick, it's coming back my way, I guess, and I will have to go and pick a female. And I am going to stay true to who I've got in the picking order. I think there's a couple of other females before this female that could do better in the game because I just don't get much from her. But my logical brain is telling me she's a good-looking girl. The guys are going to sort of be attracted to that. She's someone that potentially, I I don't know what it is about her. She kind of looks like Brooke to me. It's Shannon. And if she's anything like Brooke in the challenges, I'm going to be very impressed with what she can bring to the table. And why I say I haven't seen much of her on the preseason stuff is because it says she's a full-time model. She's into health and fitness. She's got over 150,000 followers on Instagram. We can clearly see why she's in great shape. And she thinks that she's fitter and stronger than what most people would imagine. And I think that a challenge or a season such as Australian Survivor, her body type, if you look at that, it's pretty much like a Brooke clone copy. I feel like she could do extremely well in the challenges. And I do feel like a lot of the guys are going to be attracted to her, which will give her an in the beginning to be able to communicate and talk to her throughout the season. The only thing I'm hoping with her is that she also has the brains to go with that, because we know that a lot of these players that are getting selected in this season, they're getting selected as either brains or brawn, but there's more to them. Nobody is that one-dimensional when it comes to life. So I'm very interested. She's a bit of an enigma to me. I'm going out on a limb here. I had other players that I thought there's maybe a little bit more to them and certain things where I can see a personality or a strategy side of it. But I feel like if I don't go for her here, that potentially you'll steal it from me. So this is my next pick. Riley, what do you think of Shannon at this spot?
Yeah, I really like this pick. I think you're right there. I do see her as being another potential Brooke character. She looks like someone that will obviously be strong in challenges. And potentially if she gets to the merge, someone that will dominate those endurance challenges, clinging onto a pole, breathing under the water, all those things. So I look forward to seeing how she goes. One thing I worry about, how strategic is she going to be? That's a big question for me. Is she just going to be someone like a Sarah, as Chris has just pointed out, and just play a very social game and not have that strategic aspect? So I do worry for her in that sense. Actually not a Sarah. That's not a good comparison. I'm thinking of the model in the first Champions vs Contenders.
I know you're talking about, but I've got a name as well.
Her name now.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it'll come back to me in a second. But Monica was her name. Monica. So I do worry, will she be someone like a Monica and just be a social player and nothing else? Or will she actually have a strategic game like Sarah, who was actually a great strategic player on that season? So I'm sorry, Sarah, for talking smack about you there. But yeah, I do think she's going to be someone that's really good in challenges. I worry though, will she have that strategy back in underneath her?
Okay, so I'm going to go and pick the next male pick, and surprise, surprise, the next person who I wanted to pick in the order is still available here, and I do think that I'm getting a bit of a steal here at this point, and I am going to go ahead and take Emmett off the table as my next pick. So he's also known as the plant-based Superman if you check out his Instagram, and I think he's got quite a bit of following on there as well. So obviously we know my sort of track record with vegans and how well that pick has gone for me this season so far in South Africa. I have to back another vegan here, which I never thought, because I love my meat, but I do think that he is someone that has got a lot going for him. Obviously, again, he's part of the Brawn tribe, and funny enough, I just noticed I've predominantly got Brawn men so far. It's either going to work out very well for me or very bad for me this season, but he's a health coach who works with unlocking people's greatest potential with plant-based diet. He's obsessed with pushing his body to the limits. He's done some things like an ultra endurance type of competitions. He does CrossFit. He's an Ironman. A lot of the stuff that I enjoy doing, like I'm into doing kind of ultra endurance, obstacle course races and things like that. So I can kind of relate with him at that level. I understand that it takes an immense amount of discipline to get yourself fit enough to be able to do those things. And I do think that he's going to gel extremely well with the other Brawn members here, because they're all into their fitness and those kind of things. So, and to me, he also comes across as someone that could be a bit of a leader. So the only downfall I see here in this tribe is potentially how would an Emmett, a Simon and a Benny work together. Will there be a clash of the alpha males and the Broy alliance, and will that sort of be his downfall, or will they be able to come together and work together in the season? That's kind of where I'm wondering how things are going to go. But I am still very happy to have Emmett here, because we know that he's going to absolutely smash the challenges of Australian Survivor. And Australian Survivor, for those listeners that have never watched an Australian season and thought I'll get into this for the first time this season, it is way more physical than any US Survivor season or any Survivor South Africa season that you will ever see. It is really one of the things I enjoy the most about Australian Survivor is the physical aspect and how difficult the challenges are. They're going to have to find an equalizer because it's a brains versus brawn season. But knowing Australian Survivor, I think he'll do pretty well in the competitions. What do you think of Emmett at the spot here, Riley?
Yeah, he was one I had my eye on as well. I was going to consider him as one of my top picks, but obviously I've let him slide too far, so you've taken him now, which is a shame. But no, Emmett, a great pick. You're right, and next to someone on Survivor South Africa having that vegan background, he also reminds me of maybe like a Sean Hampson from Australian Survivor 2019. Someone that, obviously very physically strong. But I do think I view him as being one of the more strategic players on that Brawn tribe. So I do think he'll be able to bring his A game there, and I am excited to see what he can produce. And yeah, if he can create a majority alliance there on the Brawn, I could see him as being someone that dominates all the way through to the merge. Someone like maybe a Sean, or even maybe like a Robbie Skibicki from the first Champions vs Contenders. So I have high hopes for him. I hope he mixes not only that physical game, but also brings some social and strategic aspect to it as well, and creates these strong alliances, and can find a good footing in the game.
Yes, I just want to quickly touch on the comment here in the channel. We've had quite a few chats come in. The comment is that I feel like Australian Survivor cast a lot of influencers because like most of the people on the cast, they have a lot of followers on Instagram. 100% agree. Australian Survivor in general tend to get a lot of influencers on the show. It's also one of the reasons why they did the whole Champions versus Contenders theme at one point. It is about getting enough Australians. But I thought about this, and I guess before coming onto this podcast, and I'll dive into that after I finish this thought, they try and bring these influencers in to try and boost the show in Australia, which is a good thing for Australian Survivor because unlike the American version, it hasn't been around for 40 seasons yet. It doesn't have that stable fan base that has been loyal with it for so many years, over 21 years now. So they have to build on that. But I think one of the things that maybe is understood or not understood by the production team of Australian Survivor is that a lot of these influencers, there's no borders in regards to where their followers come from. So they could have followers from the US, they could have followers from England. It's not to say if someone's got 500,000 YouTube subscribers, they're all from Australia and they're all going to be paying viewers in Australia. But I don't fault them for it. They have to build their base and their following somehow. I don't fault them for it as long as they also throw enough normal people that are just everyday Australians in the mix there so that we can relate to some of those people. But in saying that, I mean, is social media influencers really that different from us, Riley? Pretty much the same. They just got a bit of a following, right? But they famous for nothing, really just famous for being on social media.
I think Australian Survivor compared to US Survivor, Australian reality television usually it tends to be high on drama, and obviously bringing in a lot of those higher profile people to get people to watch, because Australian reality television overall, it likes to bring a broad range of people in. So I do think they like having those sort of model types, those former athlete types, to bring those audiences in. So I think with Australian Survivor, they're trying to get these people with established fan bases and obviously bring them over to the show, because ultimately if we get 24 people that were randomly plucked from the street, I don't think for the show it's going to bring in as many viewers as just any randoms on the street there. So yeah, that's another reason why they bring these people on the show.
Now, someone that's been with us from day one following the channel, Chris Dixon, has asked for us to plug where he's going to have his viewing party, and I think it comes at a great time, having just selected Emmett from Perth. He is going to have his viewing party over in Perth at Empire Bar, Perth, at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday night for the premiere of the season. So if you are around the Perth sort of region, and if you want to meet other Survivor fans and super fans, and you just want to sort of engage with the community, go over to Empire Bar at Perth at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday night. It is sure to be a great time out there. I've spoken to Chris quite a lot offline, and he is a really super fan, great bloke. So go and say hi and get involved in the community. I tell you what, Riley, if things work out with the pandemic and all the things that we've got going on, at some point, maybe next year, we do a live show at one of these events with Chris over in Perth or something like that. We'll talk about it and see how things go. Obviously, a lot has to change in the world for us to get there, but I'd love to do a live sort of show where we can meet some of the fans and talk to them as well. So I had the pick here of Emmett, and I believe we're going to go back to you now here for the next male pick. Who do you have, Riley?
Yeah, so it seems I'm going for all the brain picks on this tribe here. So I'm actually going to go for Mitch, my next pick. 33 years old, a doctor from Queensland, apparently, a very trusted GP in Brisbane, one of the biggest cities in Queensland, obviously. So he's on his home turf here, being in his home state. Obviously Cloncurry, a couple hours out of Brisbane. Looks like someone that's going to be really smart and bring a lot of strategy to the game. He says apparently he's in the top 1% of the world in terms of IQ. So, he's obviously deserving of his place on this Brains tribe. So hopefully he can bring a lot of strategy to the game and really work on creating all these alliances, creating blindsides, all that fun stuff. I'm not sure if he's a fan or not, but it seems like he's someone that was an applicant and not a recruit, unlike some of these other Instagram influencers that we discussed before there. So yeah, I really look forward to seeing how Mitchell goes on the season, and hopefully he brings a lot of strategy into the game. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how he goes.
Yeah, so with Mitchell, I had him one spot below my next pick. So it's the first time where we didn't steal one of the picks, but he's pretty high as well, still in the picking order of the males that are left here for me on the board. And with Mitch, when you say that you've got a top 1% IQ in the world, in general, you would think that these are people that struggle to communicate with your everyday people because their IQ is that much higher. They struggle to have, just cooler, basically everyday talk to just have like banter with people around them. They struggle with that, and for them, everything has got to be like an educational thing or talking about a grand new idea about how to make society better, or, how are they going to connect to some of these other people that are playing? I guess in the Brains tribe, they'll be fine, but as soon as this is happening, they're doing a tribe swap, and probably doing at least one tribe swap. How is he gonna sort of integrate with someone like a Daney, who's like a boxing coach and a bodybuilder, for instance? Like, is that gonna be able to? Are they gonna be able to gel? He gave me a little bit of Baden vibes. I know we've got another Baden in the season, but I'm talking about Baden Gilbert, in the sense that he might be just very smart and maybe a little bit socially awkward. But then the one thing that does give me hope for him here, Riley, and why I still think he's a good pick regardless and could do extremely well, is he's a doctor. So if that is a medical doctor, which I believe he is, then he still needs to deal with patients on a daily basis. He needs to be able to show empathy and be able to build rapport with his patients and things like that. So in that case, he might be okay. But if he's I guess a PhD, then that could be a doctor of something else, and that maybe is a little bit different. You might have already said that. It might have skipped over me when you were mentioning what type of doctor he is, but that's my only fear for him coming into the season.
Yeah, no, really looking forward to seeing how he goes. Channel Mud, I'm a little bit skeptical about your opinion there. I'm not getting too many first boot vibes from him. There's someone else in this cast that hasn't been picked yet. That really reminds me of someone. There was a previous first boot on Australian Survivor, and we'll obviously discuss that when they come up later here in the draft. But yeah, hopefully Mitch goes deep into the game here. But again, I mean, with these predictions, we really don't know anything at the end of the day, and it's really going to be up to seeing how they react with all these different people and what alliances are created early on in the game. It's obviously hard for us to sit here in the comfort of our own homes, looking at people's pictures and reading 2 sentences about their jobs outside of the game and trying to determine how they go. But look, Channel Mud, I hope you're wrong with that comment, and hopefully Mitch goes far in the game.
All right, so Riley, you've got the next pick as well, and it's going to be a female pick. Who is your next female pick that you want to take off the board?
Yeah, so I'm in two minds here. I'm thinking of going for one of the older females on this cast, and it's actually going to be someone that is a 43-year-old cleaner from Queensland. It is Janelle. I'm excited to see how Janelle goes on this season. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Sarah from Australian Survivor 2019 in the fact that she's a cleaner and obviously an older woman on this cast. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how she goes. I'm sure she'll probably be someone that is looked as sort of a more motherly figure on her tribe. It says she's a hardworking mother of 3 and an Aussie battler there. So I'm sure she'll be very entertaining, more so on how she interacts with the other tribe members. She's kind of reminded me a little of, her name's eluding me right now, Anita from Australian Survivor 2018. She looks like she's going to be someone that's going to be a very entertaining character. And yeah, the question for me with Janelle, though, is who does she align with early on? Will she be able to find herself in the majority alliance, or is she going to be cast away, excuse the pun, and not be able to find that majority alliance early on. Although generally these older people have managed to cling on to a strong alliance in the game. So I'm hopeful that Janelle goes deep in the game.
So for me, Janelle, it's funny you mentioned another player that she reminds you of. She reminds me of Tara Pitt. And I would think, can she find her Lockie this season? Can she find someone that is like a Simon or an Emmett in that Brawn tribe that wants to work with her in a way where they can make it very far in the game and they just have this connection? I do think that when we talk about there's a lot of influencers in this season and a lot of people that have got a lot of followers, she is everyday Australian. You know what I mean? She's been put on the show as an everyday Australian there, representing for all the females that are in there. I believe she's in her 40s, 43. So for the females that are in that 40 age bracket, that want to do something for themselves, I like the fact that she's a hard-working Australian, like someone that goes out there, does cleaning, has a mother of 3, obviously has got a busy life, so she'd be very happy to go out there on the show, and she'll I tell you what, as a mother of three, and knowing a lot of mothers of children, things like that, especially since I'm in that age bracket now where more and more people are starting to become parents when they hit 30. I can tell you she's loving the fact that she's getting away from her kids for a bit. So she's going to work extremely hard not to get voted out so she doesn't have to go back home. And she's probably got her significant other actually looking after the kids, and she's getting a bit of a break being out there this season. So I think that she's going to be a grafter. I am worried for her being one of the older females in that tribe. So like you said, she needs to find someone very quickly because a lot of them are going to have the bodybuilding side of things that is going to automatically gravitate them to each other. So she's going to have to hope that there's some bruised egos and people wanting to be alpha females or alpha males that creates that crack for her to slip in there and form a strong alliance with someone else in the game. But definitely want to see her go far as an everyday Australian mother going out there, blue collar. What more do you want to see? I think she fits the Brains tribe really, really well. And I'm excited to see where this is going to go. So I believe I'm the next person here in line, Riley. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm going to go for a female for this next spot. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a tough one. We're getting down to the pointy end here of this. And I just have a feeling that I have to continue to go down this theme. You know what? We've got a very mixed team here. Like you've got predominantly Brains and I've got predominantly Brawn. And I did not think that my team was going to be predominantly Brawn coming in here.
You got 2 Brain members at this time.
I fancy myself to be a little bit more of a Brains person. So I'm going to mix it up here. I am going to go for Way in this next position. And I'm going to hedge my bets and put a little bit of versatility in my tribe moving forward. And with Way, she's an international award-winning author of 6 children and young adult books. She's an academic powerhouse. She's got degrees for some of the most prestigious universities in the world. So she's someone that continues to study like a lot of academics do. I'm hoping that she can find that ally in someone like a Mitch potentially, as someone that's also an academic and quite smart, that they can potentially work together. And, she's a self-proclaimed nerd. I've got a feeling that Way is someone that would have watched this show before. And that gives me hope. I think she could maybe come in here, be a little bit of an undercover fan, and find out how to work her way through to the end of this game. And also, again, great to see diversity in the cast. So I hope she goes far and I hope she represents here in this spot. What do you think of Way?
Way is someone I was considering. Actually, I was thinking of her a lot higher, but she kind of eluded my mind there for a second. So I'm really bummed that you got her here. But yeah, she seems like she's going to be a very popular castaway. I think she's going to gel well with a lot of the contestants on the Brains tribe. More so the older contestants. And I actually do wonder whether this season, obviously in previous seasons, we've seen the older members of, the sort of brawnier members, the sporty members coming together. So we had an older athletic alliance. I think on this season, we're actually going to have a younger athletic alliance and an older Brains alliance. So I think she's going to form part of that alliance. And I think she's going to be a very strong character here. And I mean, also, being a young adult author as well, I think she could gel with some of those younger contestants as well. I'm sure she has experience, not only dealing with people around her age, but also younger kids as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how she goes. One thing I worry for her is she going to overthink the game too much? I think that might be a little bit of a worry for her. I see her maybe being paranoid at times, But again, this is just me thinking aloud, all speculation. Yeah, really excited for Wire here, and I do think she's going to be someone that is someone to look out for.
Exciting. Okay, well, we're going back to my end here, and I've got the next pick, and I'm going to stay true to sort of bolstering my brains tribe a little bit here with the next pick. And one thing you know about me, Riley, is I like my characters. I like people that bring a little bit of flavor to a season and make it quite exciting to watch, and you want to shout for them. I'm going to go for Chili Philly in this next spot. And there's a bit of a risk with this guy, with Phil, right, coming into this spot, because he potentially could be seen very easily here in the beginning of the season as someone that is a little bit of a weak spot when it comes to the physicality side of things. He's in the Brains tribe, but he's famous for being an internet sensation. He's got a lot of followers on YouTube. He's got a lot of followers on Instagram. I love his Instagram site in any case. I might have a quick look here on Instagram while we've actually got it open so you guys can have a little bit of a look at what Chili Philly gets up to on his Instagram page. He's got all of these different knitted clothes that he's got with all of these poses, which I think tells you quite a lot of his personality. And, you know, he loves KFC, similar to one of the other guys that I forgot his name now in the tribe that's in there. So they could kind of relate on that. But I think that with Chili Philly, he's going to be a character. You know, I think he's going to be great in the confessionals. I think he's someone that when he gets past that first 1 or 2 spots where he potentially could get booted out, he could work his way into people's hearts and they might be liking him too much. Because like we know with someone like a Luke Toki, if you're someone that they like and they want to keep around just because you're a great source of energy and you bring positivity in your attitude and your social game, people are less likely to get rid of you compared to the guy that's grumpy and making life miserable for everybody in camp, you know. So I'm afraid for him in the first couple of votes, but I think if he can get his way past that first couple of votes, he could charm his way all the way to the end. Like he said, you know, he's got that bright personality, you know. So what do you think of Phil here, Chili Philly, in this next spot?
Yeah, it feels really exciting me. I think they're going to be a very strong castaway here. Obviously, having that artist's background, it's going to be interesting to see how he sort of approaches the game in that sense. I do wonder whether he'll be a little bit like Wendell and create all these, you know, fun things around camp, and that'll make him more popular around camp. But yeah, no, really excited for Phil. They are the first non-binary contestant on Survivor, I believe, which is, you know,
Wow.
a very exciting thing in terms of diversity. So yeah, to see Phil and how they go on this season, really excited. Yeah, Chris, I did kind of get Stevie Cow vibes from looking at Phil at first, but I do think he's going to be a very exciting character, a little bit wild and wacky, which is always something we like to see. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Phil goes and how they sort of approach the game. I think they're going to be really strong socially. And hopefully they can also, you know, potentially bring some of that strategy in. I think they're going to find themselves in a lot of alliances and they'll actually be going deep in the game. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how Phil goes on this season.
He's been getting a lot of airtime in the promos here early season as well, which in Australian Survivor can sometimes be a very good thing for players if they get a bit of screen time prior to the season starting. And one of the things that for me is really interesting about him is he's in the Brains tribe, and his you know bio doesn't tell us why he's in the Brains tribe. So there's got to be more to this guy than a Stevie K, or a Dylan Hetter. I don't think he's Stevie K level. I just don't see that. And Dylan Hetter is someone that I think could have done a lot better in the season. He might have outplayed himself at one stage there. So you know, I think that he could go far. I'm positive. I'm happy with this pick. We're going to move on to the next pick here, which is going to be a guy pick for you, Riley. Who do you have coming up next?
Yeah, so my next pick here, I'm going to go back to the Brawn tribe, just, you know, to give myself a little bit more representation from the stronger members on this cast. And it's going to be Diney, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure if it's Danny or Diney, but I'm going to go with Diney here. You know, a personal trainer and a bodybuilder. He looks absolutely huge. He's going to be a massive threat in challenges. So really excited to see how he goes here. Fijian and Maori background, so originally from New Zealand. So I'd imagine he's going to be, you know, able to connect with a lot of different people. And obviously that Fijian and Maori background, it really emphasizes family. And I do think it's going to be someone that is going to, you know, be very tribe strong. I worry that he's going to play more of that loyalty brand, like a Commando from Australian Survivor
Yeah.
2018. But I think he's going to have a lot more personality and a lot more humor. And we're actually going to see him, not being a robot. And I'm sorry to say that, Commando, but very different from the Biggest Loser to Australian Survivor Commando was. And I do hope that we get to see a lot from Daney, is how Chris is pronouncing it. So I'm going to go, yeah, Daney. I'm really excited to see how he goes on this season. Looks so strong. He's going to be an absolute beast in the challenges. And I do worry, though, with these challenges, this Brawn tribe is massive compared to the Brains. If we see traditional Australian Survivor challenges, which are usually very heavy on, endurance and strength, I think the Brain's going to get absolutely outmuscled. So I really, really hope that they do have a lot of more equalizing challenges, at least until the tribe swap, when we actually, we have a mix of strong members and these brainiacs. So yeah, I think that's something I'm worried about, is the Brains getting absolutely begonged at the beginning. But I'm sure that Australian Survivor, adopting this theme, they've thought that, they're going to change challenges a little bit to make it more of an equal playing field.
Yeah, so Jimmy says here that he looks mean, wouldn't want to mess with him. I am gutted you got him. I had to change my strategy midstream here, because when you look at my picks, I had so many Brawns, and I kind of forgot about Daney a little bit down the line, and I wanted to pick him to represent New Zealand. Since I'm in New Zealand, I wanted to support the whānau all the way over there in Australia, playing Australian Survivor. But regardless, even if he's not in my tribe, I'm looking forward to seeing what Daney can bring to the game. He's a fitness coach who I've seen on Instagram, coaches a lot of boxing classes and things like that. I think he's got a really big personality to go with that big physique of his as well. So I do think that he's going to connect really well with people. But I just look at a guy like Daney and I think to myself, this guy is an absolute tank. How are they going to let him go all the way to the end? I just don't see him. An Australian Survivor, it's very difficult for someone that dominant and that physical to win outright and go all the way to the end. I mean, last season in All-Stars, we kind of broke the mold a little bit in the type of person that wins Australian Survivor. And I know, Riley, you're very high on this is a new era and a new evolution of the game moving forward for Australian Survivor, and we'll see more players like this winning the game. I still think the game is going to favor, one of the guys here, Dale, said a little bit earlier on. He said that the game will favor beta females more likely than the huge people to go for this win. So I kind of agree with that. It'll probably be the undercover females and undercover guys potentially that could go very far in this game, and the big threats along the way could get sniped. But the one thing that Daney has in his favor coming into this season is that he's in a very dominant Brawn tribe that I just don't see losing immunities very early on. I think the Brains are going to be in trouble until the swap coming into this, and that's kind of why I hedged my bets quite heavily on most of the Brains with most of the Brawns with like one or two Brains early on in my picks that I thought, like a Georgia, I thought she could integrate very well with whoever, if they're Brawns or Brains, it doesn't matter. George may be another person that could be that guy that I'm hedging my bet on that could go very deep and get underestimated if he makes it all the way to the merge. But anyways, enough for those people that we've already spoken about. Going back to you, Riley, you've also got the female pick here. Who are you picking for your next female pick?
Yeah, well, this is my last female pick. And for my last one, I'm going back to the Brains tribe. It's going to be Rachel. Rachel was someone, when I was considering Janelle, Rachel was the other one I was really tossing up between. So I'm surprised I got her at this stage of the draft. She looks really strong. Obviously has a background as a teacher. So I'm sure she knows how to handle those younger people in the tribe. Obviously, they're not quite school kids, but she might have been around being one of the older members of the tribe to teach them back in the past. So really excited for her. Also named the 2020 Queensland Australian of the Year, which is a pretty big bet to get. So that's awesome to see. Apparently she's an entrepreneur and transformed the education system. So it looks like she certainly has a mind where she's creative and seeking to create change. And I'm sure she'll have those leadership qualities, but I think she's going to step back on this tribe and really let someone else take that leadership role. And I do think, as I said earlier, I think we're going to see a majority alliance on this Brain tribe being the older members of the tribe. And I think Rachel might form a part of that coalition. Excited to see how Rachel goes. Honestly, I don't have the biggest upside for her. I don't think I'd see her at the end of the game. But I mean, certainly compared to the other female pick on this cast, I think she's someone I'm excited to have on my team, and I think she's going to be, very outspoken and really excited to see how she goes. And I hope she does go well in the game. And I eat my own words for picking her this long in the draft.
Yeah. So, Rachel, if you're listening to this, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous, and I hope you don't take it personal. We don't have much to go on, but your photo and what we've seen written down in your bio. I get first boot vibes from Rachel personally in that tribe, because I think that if the Brains lose that first challenge, they're going to look at who can we make the scapegoat in this specific tribe. And she's got a few things going against her here. She doesn't look like the most athletic person in that team, firstly. She doesn't look like she's not in that age bracket where she sort of falls in the mid-30s, where a lot of her tribe is going to be at. I think she's the oldest person in this specific cast at 50 years old coming into the season. And she also says, in her bio, it says that she's an outspoken award-winning educator. Now, when I hear the words outspoken in Survivor, I get very, very nervous very, very early on, because she could be that person that becomes like a Reem Daly, who is very loud and proud, and we will love her as a character, but there's no edge of extinction, which luckily there's no edge of extinction. We don't want to put that in producers' mind over in Australia. But there's nothing to keep her on our screens for a long time for her to become a fan favorite. So I think that she's someone that all of us would want to see go very far in the game. We want to shout for her. We want her to come in there and break the stereotypes around an older lady doing well in this game, and someone that's not potentially the most physical. But the question for me is her brains and the thing that she brings from a puzzle aspect enough to supersede everybody else that's in that tribe, because there's so many smart people in that tribe, but there's smart people like Baden, which we didn't even touch upon that. Baden, who you picked very high in this season at number 1 for your guys, he's someone that is a great endurance athlete, but he's also a brain. He's also smart, right? So what is she going to bring that's going to be different to the rest of the tribe? I'm very worried for Rachel. And Rachel, if you do listen to this, I really hope that you go far, and I hope that we are so wrong about this. And your saving grace is that there's been a couple of late picks in our Survivor South Africa immunity season that have done extremely well, and you may be that person, and we would be happy to eat our words here. I am happy that you've left me here with Kels as the last pick for the females, or Kez, sorry. Kez, the reason that I had it this low, and with Kez, for me, I could have gone either way with her and Shannon. I could easily see her sit in the Shannon spot in my draft pick, which is a couple of picks ahead of where she's landing here at last place. I'm sure, looking at Kez, she's never been picked last in her life, because she's a beautiful girl, she's fit, athletic, and I don't see anybody choosing her last. And she's someone that's a bodybuilder that understands what it takes to train and starve themselves. So she says, I think this is going to be a different starving, let's be honest. But she's someone that understands the discipline that it takes to get her body in peak performance, right? So from a physicality standpoint, I think she's going to do extremely well in the challenges. I think she's going to integrate extremely well with Chelsea and with Shannon potentially. I can very easily see Chelsea, Shannon, and Kez forming a girl alliance based on the fact that they're all young, beautiful girls, athletic, fit. The problem with Kez, and the thing that made me not pick her any higher, and it's similar to Shannon, is I don't know if she's got that game savviness. I don't know if she understands the game that she's playing, and if she's a recruit to come and play this game, due to the fact that she fits the mold of what we're looking for in a Brawn tribe in a season named Brawns versus Brains, or Brains versus Brawn. That's my concern about her. And I don't know if she's going to be able to play the flirt card or attract the men in the same way that Shannon does. And this is purely based off what I'm seeing on the photos of them. Shannon looks to me like she might play that card a little bit more. Kez, to me, looks like she's someone that's going to go out there and just want to dominate. She looks like an Abby. So that's kind of the closest person I can sort of put in my mind that reminds me of Kez coming into the season. And Abby did really well. So there is hope for her. What do you think of Kez coming into this season?
Yeah, I was getting Abby vibes, but also a little bit of Jenna Austin vibes. I don't know how well she's going to, relate to the others. I think an alliance for her would be with Daney. Obviously, they're both personal trainer and bodybuilders. They both had that background together. So I'm sure there'll be some sort of a connection there. But yeah, I think, I'm a little bit gutted she's gone this late in the draft, because I do think she has a lot of upside as a castaway, but I don't think her game has all that strategic backing at the end of the day. So I do worry for her, and I don't see her being, a potential final 3, final 4 sort of player, and having that case to plead to the jury in the end, because I think she's going to be someone that sort of sits behind these bigger strategic players in the game, and ultimately, doesn't have that sort of that grasp on the game, which is really led a little bit as a goat, but someone that will be strong in challenges, and obviously, she'll do well in physical challenges, a lot of endurance challenges. It looks like she's got more of a smaller frame, so I'm sure she can hold her own in challenges, obviously being as strong as she is as well with that strong upper body. So yeah, I do like the pick of Kez. Obviously last year, I do think she probably could have gone a lot higher. And at the end of the day, we don't know anything about these people. So, Kez, it's not a knock on you. Obviously, we don't know anything about all these castaways. All 24 of these castaways are absolutely awesome. And I'm really excited for all of them to see how they go. I genuinely do hope that, any person wins at this point. I'm really excited to see how they all go. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how Kez goes. But yeah, again, I do worry that she's not going to have that strategic backing, and she's just more of a brawn body, as opposed to someone that will actually have that strategic mind and do well in the game.
I agree. And I've got a very difficult choice to make here at the end to choose between two players in Joey and Gerald. And to be honest with you, this one can go either way. Like, I can see pluses and minuses to both of these people in the game. And I think I'm going to go with my brain and not my heart on this one. And I'm going to choose a brain for my last pick as well. So I'm going to put Joey in as my final pick here. The one thing for Joey that made me really nervous reading his bio is that he said that he was going to kill them with kindness and positivity. Survivor is not the game for that. It's not the game where you can kill people with kindness and positivity. But I do like the fact he's got a similar story to Benny and Simon in the sense, and I kind of relate to that story a lot because I've had a few career changes in my life. I've done different things, tried things out. If I didn't like this specific aspect of life and doing this type of job, I would switch over and do something completely different. So I really love people that take life by its horns and just do those types of things. And it also shows that he's got versatility, because to go from one specific type of job or career to a completely different one, you need to be able to adapt to different scenarios and different situations. That's why a lot of people just don't do it, because they get comfortable. And he's gone from being a tradesman to turning into a Wolf of Wall Street tycoon. So I'm hoping he doesn't go in there and try and sell them how to get rich on Wolf of Wall Street. Like you see all these ads on YouTube pop up. Hey, this is Joey. Let me tell you how I bought my first Ferrari, and then you need to buy his course. I hope he doesn't go in with that type of attitude in the game, because it'll be difficult for him to get far if he tells people about it, Wolf of Wall Street tycoon, because we don't know what that means. Is he someone that sells sales packages on how to buy stocks, or is he someone who actually buys stocks? But he's also got a lot of other things to him here, in the sense that he's done 140 marathons. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's done a lot of endurance challenges. So he's someone that's not going to struggle with, I think, the challenges. And I do think that the Brains tribe is not going to vote him out early. I think there's a plus side to him. I don't know if he wins the game, if he goes in with that kindness mindset and wanting to make friends, but I don't think he's number one being voted out here. I just don't see that for him. So that's why I had to go for him here, opposed to Gerald in this spot. What's your thoughts on Joey, Riley?
Yeah, he's a marathon runner, so he's obviously going to have that endurance aspect. And I do like that with this Brains tribe, they've actually, added some strong members to the tribe to really balance it out a little bit, so it's not completely dominant. So to have people like Baden or a Joey on this cast, I think Joey's certainly going to be one of the stronger challenge members. So I think in the pre-merge, it's going to be someone that's kept around for that Brains tribe. Again, though, I don't know how much is going to go into the whole, Wall Street trader, or Pitt Street, I suppose, if we're talking about the Australian terms here. But yeah, I worry for him in that sense that, he might come across as a little bit strong of a character, which might not work well in terms of the social and strategic interactions. But I do see him as being someone that's, maybe an early merge boot for Joey. So yeah, interested to see how he goes here. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I'm thinking early merge. I don't see too much upside, but then again, I don't also see him going, first. So going to be interesting with Joey.
Right, so you've got the last pick here, which is automatically going to be made for you, and it's going to be Gerald that's going to go into the spot here. Give us your thoughts on Gerald coming into this season.
Well, when I think it was Channel Mud earlier saying that one of my castaways was going to be first boot, unfortunately, Gerald is the one I was thinking is going to be the first boot here. He's giving me major Matt Dyson vibes for some reason. Matt being the first boot on that Russell Hant season of Australian Survivor.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about him. It's just not really working for me in that sense. I don't see him as being someone that's going to go deep in the game. But yeah, no, look, I want to be surprised by Gerald and see how he goes. He is a bushy. He's a battler, a fifth generation cattle farmer apparently. So at least it's going to have that connection with Danny there. So he's a Jackaroo, whereas Danny is a Jillaroo here. As you've learned, Chris, Jackaroos and Jillaroos being Australian stockmen. But yeah, look, I'm skeptical about Gerald and his prospects in the game. I do think he's a pre-merge boot. I think he's probably going to be one of the first, couple of boots here, probably before the tribe swap. So, I worry about him, but I mean, obviously he's going to be very strong, being in the Brawn tribe again. But those axe grinding skills, those chopping skills are going to come in very handy, I'm sure, for some of those challenges because some of those do require that sort of strength. So it'll be interesting to see how Gerald goes. Again, though, not to be critical of Gerald, I just don't see him going too far in the game, unfortunately. But you know what? I hope to eat my words. And I mean, look, in our Survivor South Africa draft, my last two picks are, two of the players with the most upside, it seems. So, you never really know what's going to happen there. And my first pick's already gone. So, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, Gerald, please prove me wrong. Again, he's from Queensland, so he's on his own on his own home turf here as well. So that'll be another interesting thing to look out for as well.
Yeah, so Gerald, the reason I didn't go from here is pretty much same things, everything that you've just said. I'm a little bit fearful for him in the fact that he doesn't have that much to relate with the other people that is in his tribe when it comes to all of them being gym junkies, all of them being into that fitness and health type of world, and that's kind of what they're in. But then again, in saying that what he does, doing wood chopping and being a world champion at that as well means that he's someone that's extremely competitive and he understands what it's like to be at the top of your game. Like he could, for all we know, strike up a really good relationship with a Flick, for instance, in that tribe who's a world champion in her own right in surfing, because I could tell you if you're someone at that top of your field, you're going to gravitate to other people that have done something that is at that level of being a world champion, so he could find his way in and build some relationships there early on. But I think that if Gerald loses this first specific challenge as a Brawn, if he hasn't had a couple of days to build those social connections, he's in trouble, right? He's not going to stay long in the game if that happens. So his best bet is for the Brawn tribe to go on a bit of a run here early in the season, which allows him to build those bonds, and then for maybe a swap to happen where he becomes the most dominant Brawn person in that swap with maybe one or two other people. I think that is his best case scenario moving into this game. But overall, I've got to say that we've got a great cast of players that are going to play this season. They're going to put on a show. I'm extremely excited to see what they're going to do. And going into this, I'm less convinced that I know the formula to this season than what I did with Survivor South Africa, because we saw videos beforehand. We got a little bit more of their personalities coming into the season, and we were still so wrong on some of our picks. But on this one, we're going on less. But overall, it's bloody good to have Australian Survivor back on our TVs, Riley.
Oh, so excited. And Brain's first Brawn is obviously going to be, a massive clash there. Again, as I said earlier, I hope that the Brawn don't dominate too much on this cast, and we do see an equal fight in the pre-merge. So yeah, really excited for Survivor to be back on our screens. Obviously, Sunday, the premiere is back on. Again, if we're in Perth, head down to Empire Bay, 7:30 p.m. and join Chris over there for the premiere party. Unfortunately for me, New South Wales, I don't have the luxury of going out to the pub and watching it at the moment, being in lockdown. But yeah, if you're in Perth, head on over and join Chris at Empire Bar, 7:30 p.m. this Sunday. And Chris, we're going to be back on Monday discussing the premiere episode, which I'm really, really excited for. We'll have an episode on Monday, and then later in the week on Wednesday, we'll be going live and discussing episodes 2 and 3 as well. So we hope that all of you guys join us here later in the week for that.
And also, I don't want to name drop yet, just in case certain things don't work out, but fingers crossed, we've got about 3 or 4 Australian survivors who've played the game before who are interested to come on and have a chat with us and recap some of these episodes with us as well. So if that works out, it's going to be cool because we've done that for Survivor South Africa. We've had previous players come on the recaps and talk about the show with us, and fingers crossed we can make that work. If it doesn't work out to have them, the first potential Australian Survivor guest will be on the Wednesday recap of episodes 2 and 3 next week, like Riley said. And the one thing, Riley, that you've dodged here right before the end of the episode is, are you going to go double or nothing, mate? You're already starting to lose the draft pick for who's going to have the most players going into the merge. Should we put some more beers up for discussion? Do you reckon you've got the team that is going to have the most players reach the merge? Is it on?
Well, I think we do have to put another wager on. I suppose more beers on the line here with this draft. Hopefully it doesn't go as bad as it was for Survivor South Africa for me. But yeah, look, I'm hoping that by me winning this draft here, I do get the luck here and it ends up in my favor. But look, we never know, Chris. Who knows what's going to happen? Let's just hope, fingers crossed, that my team gets the chalk this time. Who knows?
All I'm going to say is I'm doing this for the New Zealand economy. I need Aussie dollars to be spent over in New Zealand for you to buy me some more beers, send it my way. I think the Survivor South Africa one, we're nearly there. But guys, it's been great having you on the stream. You've been a great live crowd. You've asked a lot of great questions. We want to engage with you like this on a weekly basis, like Riley said. So follow us on Twitter, join our Discord group. I will update the Discord link at the end of this stream and get involved, having chats with us. We want to do potentially some days where we all just jump in and do some QAs on Discord and have some voice chats and things like that. But if you don't like the voice chats, you just want to get involved in a community of great people that talk about the greatest show on earth, join us on the Discord channel. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks and goodbye.